Right. Well, the first stage I call the euphoria stage, I call it the honeymoon stage. It's when you're gazing into each other's eyes and you don't care about anything else. The hormones do the work, and so you don't have any reason to have conflict. So you have to learn the skills for conflict, but we don't have conflict in that stage because the honeymoon is where the hormones do the work, so there is no problem. There are no problems, and you're not equipped for them. It lasts about 18 months. And after that, you then have to learn the skills that I teach, which is the Smart Heart Skills and Dialogue of how to handle a disagreement and to validate each other, which is walking in the other one's shoes, which has caused a lot of divorce because people don't know how to validate. We want a perpetual honeymoon. That's the problem. We always want to feel that euphoria high. The next stage is the magical thinking stage. This is also where the feel-good hormones and the endorphins begin to subside. So rather than seeing the similarities and the differences, we try to gloss over it with magical thinking, like abracadabra, like somehow, like a child thinks, the wishful thinking, but unrealistic idea that somehow things will just magically work out. And the next stage is the power struggle stage. Now, this is a stage that every relationship goes through. And if people understood that, then they would know why we pick a person who gives us the most trouble. If we pick a person who gives us the most trouble, the answer isn't to just leave the person because it's going to happen in the next relationship. Getting rid of a person doesn't get rid of a problem. Now, I'm not talking about abusive relationships, so those you don't stay in. But the power struggle stage means I pick someone who's going to give me trouble. They're going to challenge me in the area that needs to be challenged in, and those are from our childhood wounds, that we want you to help the person that you picked to heal your wounds. But inevitably, we hurt the wounds because we don't know what they are. So the couple goes through a phase where they share in sessions with me on the phone or in person their childhood wounds and how that's bringing in the marriage and or into the relationship the unconscious memories and things that they need to resolve from childhood. Now, if you're doing the relationship correctly, you go through the power struggle stage, and then that's how you get to real-life love. Real-life love, you cannot get there without going through the power struggle stage. So people need to stay and work harder rather than leave when the going gets rough. The next stage is the transition stage. This is an opportunity to make lasting and true transformations in your relationship and in your family of origin that you grew up in, because this is where the family of origin comes to play in the relationship. In relationships and marriage, that's the way that you finish childhood, is through those relationships. So that's why big changes require moving back into the transition stage so you can make the needed behavioral changes and move on to the next stage. Relationships change, and they change daily, and they also go through predictable cycles of change, like the 7-year itch. Changes like losing a job, having a baby, moving to a new place, whether you're buying a house, going to school, or even getting a pay cut. These are the perfect kind of times to use change to your advantage. So that's a very important stage for people, and a lot of people can't handle that. The next stage is the breakup stage. I believe that a lot of times people have to break up to make up, which means that you take people for granted. So because we take people for granted after we get to know them, sometimes I recommend what I call a breakup to make up, which is also a brush with death, which means that you take time apart. It could be a weekend, it could be a month, it could be 2 months. Usually I recommend approximately, for serious cases, at least 6 weeks. This is for narcissists. If you have a partner that's narcissistic or selfish or an addicted person who keeps telling you they're going to stop cheating or drinking or workaholic behavior, you have to take a breakup to make up, because that's what usually takes them to their knees and jolts the person, him or her. So the breakup stage can last a few hours, a day, weeks, or months, but it usually takes 6 weeks for the distancer, which is 80% of men would be distancers, the person that disconnects. on a regular basis to go into what we call their emptiness. And so it's very important not to go back too soon at this stage, because then the person, if they cave in and go back too soon, there's little change that is really made. And you're looking for change here. You're not looking to punish someone. The next stage is the makeup stage after the temporary breakup stage. Couples who break up to make up and work through this stage actually develop the most strong and connected relationships that I have ever seen, because they never forget the brush with death. It's like if you had a brush with death with breast cancer, you would never forget it. So it's the same thing. It actually propels you into a different relationship and a different mindset, that you'll never forget that you lost this person. Through the loss, you begin to realize how much you love the person. And the conflict and I guess I would say from the conflict and the tension from the breakup stage causes passion, which is why, sex is so great at this stage. That's why they say makeup sex is the best sex. The next stage is re-romanticizing. The re-romanticizing stage is whether you're making up or after a breakup or your relationship has stalled out, it's time to shift gears and then you enter the relationship stage. This is the one I call pulling out all the stops and really going for it, to recreate the magic and romance in your relationship. So I ask you to do all the things that you did before when you first met and you were gaga over each other. And it's very important to reenact, your first dates with each other. It's very important for all couples, and it's very challenging, but it's certainly worth the effort. The last stage is the one real and lasting love stage, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, and that one is propelled from the power struggle stage. You can never get to real life love unless you go through the power struggle stage and make it and learn the skills how to walk in each other's shoes and be respectful. There's no love without respect.